Hi, and welcome to Mad PD. I'm Nancy Angevine Sands. Thank you very much for joining me. I'm supposed to be joined by a colleague of mine, but she's been hung up somewhere, so hopefully she'll join us at some point. Today, I'd like to spend our brief time together talking to you about parent-teacher conferences. So just give me a moment to get things going here, and we'll begin. That wasn't it. Here we go. So, as I said, my name is Nancy Angevine Sands, and I'm the founder of With Equal Step. We're a consultant business on family engagement, and we work with parents and teachers and administrators to try to build effective and meaningful family engagement within our schools. And my colleague, if she's able to join us, is Michelle Monroe, who's a manager at the Toronto District School Board. So let's get started on rethinking parent-teacher conferences. I like this quote. The parent-teacher conference is one of our biggest opportunities as educators and also one of our most squandered. Educators often only serve as a grade bookkeeper, missing the chance to really connect with parents. Until now, our conferences have dates and times that are set by our Board of Education. They're located at the school. They have a format determined by the teacher or the school, and they're mainly a one-way flow of information from teacher to family, or in student-led conferences, from student to family. That parent-teacher conferences really should be an opportunity for home and school to build relationships, trustful relationships that can continue on through the rest of the year. It's a wonderful opportunity to share information, what's happening in the school, what's happening at home, and to co-plan learning going forward. They shouldn't be the only time that information is shared. In fact, when a parent or family member sits down at a parent-teacher conference, it should not be the first time they're getting some information, especially if that student is facing some challenges. This should have been an ongoing conversation. The conferences should not be one-way conversations. I've personally, and I'm sure you have too, sat at many conferences where the only thing was happening is I was given information about my child and what they were learning, how they were doing, and that was it. There was, especially at the high school level where you have 5 minutes, there was no opportunity to hear back from me or to allow my husband or I to ask any questions. The conference shouldn't be a rundown of all of the challenges posed by the student. Of course, we have to advise our families and work with them on some of the challenges we're seeing. But we should also look at some of the milestones that they've reached, some of the things that they've accomplished, and the goals that they may have reached or are reaching. The no information should be delivered without context. Make sure the parents realize, where did you get this assessment and evaluation information? How does it fit in with the rest of what's going on in the classroom? And the last thing that a parent-teacher conference should be is stressful for anyone. And if we change anything else with this little talk today, I hope it's that one. So what can we do in changing the pattern? Well, we can begin the relationship between home and school before the conference. As I said, family engagement begins and ends with relationships. Building those relationships between your families, saying hello to them, calling them with good news, and and calling them sometimes with concerns, asking them what they're seeing, communicating with them in various ways in social media, what's happening in the classroom and what's happening with their child, and seeking information back from them about what's happening with the child at home. I remember speaking with a teacher once, and she said she loved having those conversations because if Johnny's dog passed away last night, she wants to know about it because she knows Johnny's not going to be in a good place for the rest of the week. And she'll have to, her expectations for his work and what's going on will change a little bit. Share information between home and school on a regular basis. And it's really important that you establish a method and a routine for doing this. What is the best way for your families? What is the preferred way for your families to receive information? And let's remember, not every family has the same answer to this question. Some might prefer to have it written in the agenda or some other kind of log, take-home log. Some might prefer an email or to see it via Twitter. Others might prefer a phone call or a hard copy letter. So ask them how do they want to receive the information you're sending home prior to the conference, and also let them know how you want to receive information. How's the best way to contact you and what's the best time to contact you? And also, when can they expect to hear back? Many parents write and they want to hear back right away because it's really important to them. They have to understand, no, I'm in the classroom for 6 hours a day and then I have some meetings. I will guarantee to you that I will do all I can to reply to you in 24 hours or 48 hours. I wouldn't leave it longer than that. Ensure that the communication is two ways. Families should be able to send information and comments to you, and then see that information inform the teaching as you move forward. And make sure that when you're engaging your families, what you do is linked to learning. Otherwise, it's not engagement, it's just contact. And contact is okay. That's how we make relationships. Hi, how are you? How's it going? Oh, we had a good day. But it's not engagement. Engagement occurs when the families know what the child is learning, how they're doing in that learning, and how the family can support learning at home. So we're getting closer to the conference. So we have the conference date. We're looking for people to come. Send out invitations. Especially for the families that you really want to see. Lots of times I hear teachers say, well, I never see the families that should come in. So send them an invitation. You might want to get your students to write the invitation for you and say this with the information and the selection of times that might be possible for them to come. Reach out before the date and the time of the meeting and remind them, either you personally or through a written communication via your student. Ask your families, what would they like to discuss? There's many things you want to talk to them about and that your student wants to share, but there's things that the families want to know that they may be concerned about or that they want you to be aware of. When you collect all of that information, yours and theirs, have an agenda. What outcomes are you hoping to accomplish? What are the areas of improvement for the student? And is there a portfolio that you can work from? And then finally, create a welcoming environment. And listen, I've sat at enough high school and middle school parent-teacher conferences that I understand creating a welcoming environment in that area is really difficult. But I don't know, a little plate of candies or cookies, a flower, something that, a smile, something that says, welcome, I'm glad you're here, you're really important, you're not just the 4:15 appointment. Engage your families prior to the conference. I've already talked about making those contacts and those relationship building efforts prior throughout the year. But try sending home a survey for the parents before the conference. Ask them some of these questions. What do you think your child does well? Where would you like to see them improve? What tools do you need to better support learning at home or at a learning environment? And is there anything you'd like me to know so that I may better support your child? When we send this home to our families, we're telling them, I'm really interested in what you have to say. This isn't just about me spewing out a bunch of information and saying bye. This is about us working together as partners. And please remember, for your families that are newcomer or immigrant families, you may need to get the survey translated into their language so that they can understand what you're asking, and also to inquire, will they require an interpreter at the conference itself? Now it's time for the conference. Of course, parent-teacher conferences are a time to share data. When discussing assessments, use examples of the students' work. Explain what was expected of them, what they did, maybe where it was good, where it could have used improvement. To share data just on its own without context, without explanation, is unfair for your families. They won't be able to fully understand what the importance and the significance is of what you're telling them. Explain the standards and the skills that the student was aiming to reach and or did reach. As I said, help your families to understand the data that you're sharing with them. Do not use jargon. This is very easy, and we are starting to hear it more and more, but we tend to speak in edubabble in the school, in the staff room, at conferences, and it's very easy to slip into that syntax. Try not to use it. Try not to use acronyms. Try to speak and explain in a way that your families will understand. And I'm not talking about dumbing it down. I'm just talking about not using the language that we use within education all the time. And finally, include suggestions for supporting this learning at home. This is especially important at the elementary level. When you get into high school level, it's a little more difficult, as we all know, for parents to literally support that learning, but there are things that the parents can do that you can help them with to support their child at a high school level. To act more as a coach, to set up a good homework area or homework time, ways that they can show that learning and school is important to them and pass that feeling on to their students. So any suggestions that you can make are always helpful and appreciated. After you've shared your data with them, ask for input from the family. If you sent that survey home, you may want to expand on that. What are they seeing from their child? What are they really happy with? Not always the challenges. We tend, especially if we only have 5 minutes, to look at the challenges. But let's look at the things that our kids are accomplishing, at the wonderful advances they have made, and things that we can be happy and proud of. And that comes from the family as well, especially for families with children that have struggled. To hear and to be asked to stop and think about the good things that their kids are doing is really, really important and very valuable for them, for their student, and for you. Share ideas with them, again, about how they can support learning. And always listen actively for their strength, what they feel are the strengths and needs of the children, what learning opportunities are available to them outside of school. And they may not be aware of some of the learning opportunities. So it'd be a good idea if you had some thoughts about learning places, what's happening at your library, what's happening at your community center. And I know you're really busy with a lot of other things. If you have a school council or a PTA, you might ask them to gather up some of these resources so that you can share them with your families. Talk to them about the teacher, student, and the parent's child. What are your hopes and dreams for them, and what are their hopes and dreams for their child? And then finally, make an action plan together. You're not in this alone. You're in there with the families, and they have to know that they don't just send their child to school and that's where it happens and they don't have any responsibility. They do. They have a role and responsibility. It's to be shared with you, and working together on how are you going to move forward? How are you going to meet some of the challenges that have been identified? What are you going to do? Who's going to do it? What are the timelines? And what's follow-up going to look like? When will you get back in touch with each other? And this is the really important part. At the conference, you have to take a moment, if you haven't done this already, and I kind of hope you have, to establish lines of communication to ensure that you are able to have that follow-up on your action plan. How will you communicate with the family? Will it be notes home? Will it be phone calls? Will it be emails? What works for them and what works for you? How can they communicate with you? Maybe making a phone call to you isn't the best idea. Maybe if they just send you an email or some other form of communication, a hard copy letter, maybe that's what works best for you. For them, it's leave a message for me on the phone. For you, it's a note, whatever. Talk about it and explain it. And as I said earlier, let the parents know what their expectations should be for a reasonable response time. And talk about what happens if that doesn't occur, if you get hung up. What are some other options that they have? We don't want challenges on your side or on your parent's side to escalate and get out of hand because one or the other feels that they haven't been heard or respected or appreciated. When we do this, we're hopefully eliminating some of the chances of that happening. So you're going to say to me, okay, Nancy, well, I did all that and they still didn't attend. So let's look at a couple of the things. What's the challenge? If they didn't attend, there may be some common challenges as to why they didn't attend. So they didn't attend because they were working. Many of our families have 2, 3 jobs. They work in the evening. They have odd hours. So what can you do? Well, you can share the dates at the very beginning of the year with the hope that if they have enough time, they could book time off work. Or you could offer an alternative time outside of the traditional parent-teacher conference time. Now, some of you may say, well, I can't do that for all of them, and no, you can't. But if you have started to build those relationships with your families that I talked about, you're going to have an idea of what the reality of their life is, and you'll know if it's fair to offer them an alternative time. They're available, you know they're available, and they just aren't in the school. I've already suggested a written invite and a follow-up, reminders, scheduling specific times, saying to them, listen, I really want to see you. Please come. I'd like to discuss and hear from you about your child. What time works best for you? Ask the family what they want to discuss so that they understand, you know what, there is a reason for me to go here. This is an opportunity for me to share information as well. They won't come into the school. Many of our families have a history that makes the institution of a school a frightening place or a place of very, very bad memories. And they just won't come in. We have to respect that. We have to understand that. And so if we reach out and we offer to hold the conference on the phone or in a location outside of the school. If you hold a location outside of the school, of course, you're going to want to check that with your administrator and perhaps take another staff member along with you and explain to them why. But all conferences don't have to take place at a desk in your classroom or your gym. My parents don't speak English. In some boards, they make interpreters available. In others, in boards that don't, there are other places where you can get them if is there a teacher at the school who speaks the same language? Is there you wouldn't want to use another parent because of privacy issues, but perhaps you could go to a community center or a place of worship and find out if there's someone who could interpret. And also make use of visual aids. I had someone at a conference yesterday say to me, they were a little worried about how to speak with their parents who could not speak English. They didn't know whether they should use visual aids because they didn't want to feel like they were dumbing it down. If we use visual aids for all of our parents, then it becomes a standard issue. So if we send notes home and there's written note, but there's also a visual aid that explains the same information, the families are getting used to that. And using visual aids at a conference won't seem as jarring. As well, I think that a family that doesn't speak English may well appreciate the fact that you're making every effort to communicate with them and help them to understand what you're trying to get across and hear back from them. You've heard from the parents and you think their goals are too easy or too unrealistic for their student. I would ask you to begin to remember that both of you, the family and you as a teacher, want the best for the student. What that best might be could be different, but we have to respect what the other wants and try to find a place where we can come together. So perhaps if you start with one or two goals that you could try to accomplish in the month or two after the conference, if you need to, if they're being unrealistic about the child's abilities, break those goals into chunks. Or even if the parents are feeling that you're asking too much of the child, perhaps you aren't, but let's make them feel a bit better. Instead of giving a great big goal, give them the goal and break it into chunks. My kids had a teacher once, and when he handed out this grade 11 history, when he handed out the assignment, he broke it down into chunks. He didn't give them the whole assignment at once. He said, I want you to sign up for your presentation by the end of Friday. And the next Friday is, I want to know what books you are going to use for research, and I want to know by the end of this week. So if you follow something like that, and it might make it easier both for the parents to handle and for the child. And then don't forget to celebrate those benchmarks. Celebrate each goal that they do to make the parent feel better, to make the child feel better. They still won't come, Nancy. Well, let's go back to the beginning. Build that relationship. Work on that relationship. Give them a call. And, it's 2 minutes out of your day. You got 2 minutes. Just give them a call. Say, hi, I just wanted to let you know that Mary had a great day today, and I was really happy to have her in the classroom. Bye. Have the student write invites or have the student write things that they're doing or wishes that they have. And seek an introduction. If you've never met them, find somebody who knows them, a teacher, another parent, an administrator, somebody who has met these parents, and find a way to meet them, either at a school concert or an event, a track and field, someplace where you know the parent is coming out. 50 years of research tell us that homeschool partnerships benefit the student, the school, and the family. And the parent-teacher conference is an important part of family engagement. As I hope I've tried to get across, it's an opportunity to share, to listen, and to co-plan school and home together and student for the future of the child. It's time, I believe, for us to rethink how we do parent-teacher conferences. Here we are. There's a thing at the side of your screen that you may see that talks about group chat. I don't see anything there. Just allow me to do something. Um, Sorry. No, there doesn't seem to be a chat there. So, I hope that you enjoyed this presentation of MAD PD. I hope that you're enjoying the day and that you've listened to other of the presentations. They go on for the rest of the day, people from around the world sharing their best ideas for teaching in today's world. If you have any questions on this presentation, you can get a hold of me at withequalstep@gmail.com. Again, thank you so much for joining me today and enjoy the rest of your day.